So good afternoon, everybody. To all our viewers, this is fourth in the series of this webinar series. Today we are going to talk about the Indo-China relationship in the context of post-COVID situation right now. So briefly, today we have with us a very eminent panel, and in our panel we have Lieutenant General D.B. Shekatkar. He's also the Chancellor of Sikkim University. Then we have Lieutenant General M.V. Patil, is a war veteran, played a big role in the 1962 war also. Then we have Sri Jayadev Ranade, President of Center for China Analysis and Strategy. We have Srivini Goenka, Secretary, Center for Knowledge Sovereignty. And we are waiting on Mr. Rigzin Spalbar, former Chairman CEC Ladakh, Autonomous Hill Development Council. Now, it depends on a lot of factors whether he'll be able to make it, because obviously currently the scenario in terms of connectivity is pretty low. So we will take it from there. Before that, I would just like us to have a moment that we can basically share for at least for our martyrs. I mean, the people who've been martyred. If we can have a moment, a minute of silence, and then we will take the proceeding forward, and Mr. Spalbar can join us when and how it is possible. Okay. So just to contextualize what we're going to talk about, we have seen the last couple of months and days building up to this, there are a lot of tension around the line of control and the border that we share with China. There are issues there, obviously. And we have very unfortunate incidents also that have happened. But however, putting everything into context, the worldwide outbreak of COVID has also brought in a lot of different dimension to that. During this pandemic, there is global economic, political, and social strife that is going on. And we have seen that it has illuminated the darker politics of geography, race, creed, employment, gender biases, and economic disparity. And it's basically opened up all the fault lines that previously existed hidden. With the context of India-China, we have a little bit heightened activity, because there is obviously the line of control, a huge, I guess, a huge contiguous line that runs across the two countries. And within that, we've seen activity at the Galwan Valley, which led to the martyrdom of 20 of our army men. We've seen some strife in Doklam, in Nakula, in Sikkim, and obviously in other areas as well. So with that, however, we are trying to figure out what are the geopolitical long-term implications, and also how to figure out a path forward, how we can look at that going forward. We have with us Lieutenant General D.B. Shekatkar. He is served the army for about 40 years. commissioned at the Maratha Light Infantry in 1963, and is one of the leading authorities in handling anti-insurgency operation. In 1999 Kargil War, he was in charge of the China front in Arunachal Pradesh, which is then it was China, South Tibet. He was also in charge of border management with China, Arunachal Pradesh, Myanmar, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and he served in the northeast combating insurgency in Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, and other areas. So he's also served as a member of the Joint Working Group that's dealing with the Indo-China boundary, as a member of experts group dealing with border disputes, member of drafting team of the Peace Tranquility Agreement, and he is decorated thrice by the President of India, Vishisht Seva Medal 81, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal 1997, and Param Vishisht Seva Medal 2002. Apart from that, he is also an author. He's an academician, the Chancellor of Sikkim University. He has PhD in management science, PhD in defense, a doctorate in all these fields. And also he is the chairman of the Shekatkar Commission, that basically, Shekatkar Committee, which basically looked into a lot of the army reform issues. Then second to that, we have, then the next, sorry, in the next, we have Lieutenant General V.M. Patil. His full name is Venkatesh Madhav Patil. He served in the Indian Army from 58 to 1996. He's the veteran of the 1962 war against China and 65 war against Pakistan. He was awarded the Mentioned in Dispatches in 1962 for his role in the Tawang sector. After graduating from Royal College of Military Science and Army Staff College at Camberley, UK, he handled operations along the line of control in Poonch sector, J&K, from 72 to 75. And also, he was the first military advisor in the Indian embassies of Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, current day Cambodia. And his tenure also allowed him to build close relationships with defense advisors in the Soviet bloc, in the old Soviet bloc, China, including China, and also the head of intelligence in Vietnam. So very, very well decorated. He was commander of United Nations Military Observer Group, comprising of military observers from 23 countries, in Iraq from 88-90 as part of United Nations Military Observer Group. And he is also awarded with the Ati Vishisht Seva Medal in 1991. And as Additional Director DGMO in Army Headquarters, he was responsible for controlling communal rights post Babri Masjid in 1992, and the violence in 7 days in UP, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, West Bengal, Bihar, etc. Very closely worked with the 15th Corps in bringing down militancy in Jammu and Kashmir in the 1991-1993 time frame. And he has played a role in the corporate world as well. Is Vice President of Mukan Steels in Mumbai from 1996 to 2008. And he basically handled a lot on industrial reforms, wage negotiations, labor contracts, etc. Currently, he is president of Akhil Bharatiya Purva Sainik Seva Parishad, vice president of the Forum of Integrated National Security, and member of management group of HV Desai Eye Hospitals from 2012. Then we have Sri Jaydev Ranade. He's the president of the Center for China Analysis and Strategy. He's the member of NSAB and president of the recently established Center for China Analysis and Strategy, former additional secretary in the Cabinet Secretariat, Government of India, member of the Core Group on China and Indian Council of World Affairs, and a distinguished fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies in New Delhi. He's a seasoned China analyst for over 25 years in the field. He earned his diploma in advanced proficiency in Chinese after 2 years of study program in JNU. And he has completed an intensive course in Mandarin and a diploma in Mandarin from Hong Kong University. His foreign assignments include Hong Kong, Beijing, and his last foreign posting prior to retirement was in 2008, was as minister in Indian Embassy in Washington. So he is also a distinguished fellow with the Center for Air Power Studies. He contributes in mainstream, you must have seen him in mainstream media, mostly newspapers and national TV channels, etc. Then there is obviously his contribution in China, which they've been, I think it's published as 3 books. And obviously you have seen him in most of the TV channels. Then we have Sri Vinitji Goenka, Secretary, Center for Knowledge Sovereignty. Vinitji is an old friend. He's a politician associated with the BJP for the last 25 years, from booth level worker at Mumbai to national level politics. And he's the national co-convener of the IT cell. Before joining BJP, he was actively engaged with AVP. He's comfortable khadi and down-wristed suit, which is actually true. And he's worked in the corporate sector for 12 years before plunging into active politics. He's a politician with full commitment in national and passionate about tapping technology. And also he is actively working in the field of data sovereignty and data localization. He's championing this cause for the last couple of decades, that Indian data, and it's coming into fruition just now because this COVID and all this pandemic and all the 59 apps that are banned is now finally bringing all his vision into fruition now with the in the field of data sovereignty and data localization. So he was appointed as a member of IT task force in the Ministry of Road Transport, Shipping with the Government of India. In these capacities, he worked very closely with several union ministries and nationwide IT initiatives that was launched by Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi. And also he's the Secretary of Center for Knowledge Sovereignty, a think tank that works in the space of data security, data sovereignty, data privacy, 2000 and cybersecurity 2003. He's also published, co-authored a book on data sovereignty. It's called Data Sovereignty, the Pursuit of Supremacy. You can buy that off of Amazon also, I think. Then we have Sri Rinzing Spalbar, former chairman, CEC of Ladakh Autonomous Hill Council Development. He's a graduate of Delhi University, founding president of All Ladakh Students Union, Delhi University. And he joined NSUI President Youth Congress Leh in 1985 to 1989. He's the General Secretary, Ladakh Buddhist Association, 1989 to 1995. And he successfully carried out a lot of agitation for UT status, which culminated in the grant of Hill Council in 1995. He became the General Secretary of the District Congress Committee from 1995 to 2002. He represented Ladakh Autonomous Hill Council as an elected representative continuously for 20 years, and also assumed the charge of councillor and chief executive councillor, and twice as chairman from, I think, 1995 to 2000, 2005, 2010, and 2002 to 2004, 2004, 5, and 10, 15. He is currently the leader of opposition at the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council and President District Committee, and also is a INC candidate for the Lok Sabha general election. Wow, okay. So we have a very good lineup, very interesting lineup. So I think first I would want to call upon Lieutenant General Shekatkar Sab. I want you to give us 10 minutes of your view on how you're looking at this, the India-China relationship, what has happened with COVID, and how we can now kind of like figure out a surge of way through all this madness, you know. Because on the TV channels, everything is practically mad. People are, you know, shouting over their voices. We want to figure out much more saner, much more strategic. Also, that will help everybody connect, because we living in the borders don't want to live in fear and anxiety. And if there is a way that we can figure out what are the what are the ways forward, then it will be great to hear it from someone like you, sir. Sir, please go ahead. It's yours.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you all, friends. It's very nice to organize this webinar. There are great people in this panel, tremendous amount of experience. General Patil, under whom I had the honor to work, whatever I did for China, it was under his directions. Jaydev Ranade, another expert. We know each other since 1992. And when we were signing the first boundary agreement between India and China, 1993. Quickly, I'll run over. Firstly, about the COVID itself. Some are calling it coronavirus, COVID-19. Somebody is calling it Wuhan virus. somebody is calling Chinese virus. But there is no doubt, in my mind, I could be wrong, Mr. Ranade will be able to tell us, this has happened since China was experimenting on the agent of the biological warfare. There are 19 countries in the world, though biological warfare is banned under Geneva Treaty. We don't indulge into all that, but there are about 18 to 19 countries today who are experimenting on this. So this leak, and I have been to Wuhan, by the way, I have been to Wuhan, but not to the laboratory. That was in a different context. This virus, which escaped from the laboratory, is either an incidental leak of the biological agent, or it is also an accidental leak. Like you have sometimes on your stove, your pressure cooker, if the heat goes up, it releases some energy. And when thrice it gives the energy, you come to know that the food has been cooked inside. If it doesn't release the energy, suddenly you find a burst going into the air and people start dying. So there is an incidental leak, there is a possibility of accidental leak. And my understanding is this is because of the experimental leak. When the experiment has been going on, it has leaked from there. They have been blaming, they don't accept. Everybody else is saying, but look at the problem today. Not a single bullet has been fired, not a bomb has been fired, no missile has been fired, no declared war. But in the period of just 4 months, less than 4 months, 6 lakhs people have died across the world. 6 lakhs. And one of the most powerful country, the superpower, has lost almost 1,16,000 people in the United States. I refuse to believe that it is not part of the biological warfare. It may not have been declared biological warfare, but it has got spread into the warfare. Look at Europe, and we are suffering in India. Our contact rate is about to go to 1 crore people. So when this is happening, and suddenly you find in India, when we're fighting with COVID-19, we had the problem of cyclone, which came along the western coast of India. It created devastation for us. Then there's the attack of locusts, which destroyed the crops in Rajasthan, Haryana, Delhi, and has gone almost up to Odisha. They destroyed the crop. And now, since the month of June, or particularly 5th of June, this line of control problem, Chinese ingress into Ladakh. Somebody will say, oh, this is an ingress. I don't think so. I dealt with China, I have handled China, we have studied China, for about 10 years. This ingress into Ladakh is part of grand design of China. Mr. Ranade probably will speak more on this. To divert the attention of the people of China themselves, who are under tremendous pressure from the world. This LAC aggression has been initiated. The president of China himself, Mr. Xi Jinping, has a tremendous internal, I will not say revolt, but unhappiness in China about him. They are blaming him. Thirdly, the young generation of China, a good number of them have studied in USA and Europe, are looking for an alternative. They don't want to be under this regime. Fourthly, China is having a tremendous problem in Hong Kong. We all have been seeing for the last 3 years how Chinese have been ruthlessly controlling the people of Hong Kong. Fifthly, China is worried about the events which may take place in Tibet. China is also equally worried about the Uyghur Muslim population. For the last 4 days, you have seen the world is crying how they are trying to control the growth of the Muslim population in Sikkim province, ruthlessly imposing family control and whatnot. They're virtually under siege, these people. And when all these things happened, suddenly they found India to be the target. China is an aggressive nation. India's, my firm belief is we should never make a mistake of calling China as a friendly nation. We'll be fooling ourselves. We'll be fooling our young generation. And that is what right from the time when I was in high school, we have been studying, oh, China is a big power. China is a big population. China is a big economy. China is a large population with the large military power. So a fear psychosis has been created in India. China बहुत बड़ा मुल्क है. अगर आप China के रास्ते में जाएंगे, वो आपको खा जाएगा. Even the common people in the villages, they say, don't go to China or don't cross the road with China. And how this fear psychosis was created? By the ruling regime. I don't want to name the political party. We all know who has ruled India for the last more than 55 years. Duly supported by Communist Party of India. These people have created. So everybody is now scared. And therefore, Chinese have been ingressing into our territory. In 1962, they have captured almost about 32,000 square kilometers in Ladakh. Even now, despite their territory with them, their greed is not going up. They want more, they want more, they want more. Arunachal Pradesh, they captured a territory. Sikkim, you will know better. They tried to do that, but we taught them a good lesson. We taught them a good lesson in Sikkim in 1967, and they stopped coming. That shows that if you are tough with China, China will be scared of you. If you are firm with China, China will respect you. But if you accept nonsense from China, China will overpower you. Today, China has the boundary dispute with 18 neighboring nations of China, 18, 180 of them. There is no nation around China with whom the Chinese borders are there. There is no boundary dispute. Even with Soviet Union, Chinese have been able to acquire 160,000 square kilometer land of Soviet Union. I have studied that agreement. They have taken all the land from Mongolia. Manchuria they have annexed. South Korea, Japan, South China Sea, Vietnam. Vietnamese taught them a lesson in 1979. They hammered them. They hammered them badly. And thereafter, Chinese stopped going that side. So the lesson to be learned by India is that if you don't stand firm with China, Chinese will try and overpower you. China's greed for land will never come to a grinding halt. And why Ladakh? Because Ladakh is a strategic territory for China. There's a saying that the location or geographic location of any land, any territory, any nation, it decides the importance of that nation. Ladakh is a link between Tibet, India, Siachen Glacier, Kargil, and the POK. If Chinese happen to get into Ladakh, particularly beyond Galwan Valley and Karakoram Pass, they will save almost 3,000 kilometers of distance coming to that place. And that is why they want. If they happen to get a control of Galwan Valley, thereafter they will not stop there. Their next target will be DBO, what we call Daulat Beg Oldie. Daulat Beg was the Subedar who went into Xinjiang and beyond. He established a post there. I have visited that place. The world's highest airfield is there, and our aircrafts are landing there. We have a post. And from DBO, Karakoram Pass is just 14 kilometers, It's a plain drive. You can reach, if you've got a nice tank or a APC or a big power vehicle, you can reach there within 2 hours. And once you are at Karakoram Pass, then you almost get behind Siachen Glacier, where India is fighting a war with Pakistan. And once you are behind Siachen Glacier, you are almost behind Kargil. And once you link up with them, you will be dominating China-Pakistan economic corridor, where Chinese are spending almost $80 billion, $80 billion. The China-Pakistan economic corridor is linking mainland of China through POK, through Pakistan, into Balochistan, and then into Arabian Sea. They are building a seaport, huge seaport at Gwadar. Once they complete this, the distance from Arabian Sea to mainland of China will be just 300 kilometers, 3,000, I beg your pardon, 3,000 kilometers. For the transportation of their goods, petrol, chemical, export, import, everything. Today, Chinese have to traverse through Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific Ocean, and South China Sea, 9,000 nautical miles. That is the distance they have to travel today. And every kilometer is costing a lot. Cost of petrol, cost of diesel, cost of energy. It is for this reason Chinese are looking at Ladakh as a strategic terrain. And they are playing old card with us. Oh, this territory belongs to us. They already captured Aksai Chin. What should India do? I have my request and appeal to you people. You are the younger generation. Your future is at stake. You have to go a long way. Our children have to suffer. We must be firm against China. It's a high time the young generation should force the government of India. Let us take back our Aksai Chin. Let us take back the territory which Chinese have captured in 1962. If they have captured it, was not with our consent. They fought a war. And when you capture a territory during war, it doesn't belong to you. It becomes a disputed territory. Like Chinese are calling Ladakh as a disputed territory, India should also start calling as the Indian territory. And we should start showing Aksai Chin in the maps of India. Let them raise objection. Let them do what they want to do. Just today, our Prime Minister went to Ladakh. Why he went there? It is to boost up the morale of the armed forces which are deployed there. We suffered 20 martyrs on 15 June night. Chinese are not accepting. They have suffered much more, almost triple the number what we lost. But they will never accept their casualties. China and Pakistan never accept that their people are dead. Don't accept it. It is not their philosophy. Whereas we had to return the dead body. We have Indians have returned the dead bodies. So we should now start forcing the government of India to start showing Aksai Chin as part of India. We should not call Ladakh as a disputed territory. We should not say there is a difference of perception. It may be Chinese perception. It is not Indian perception. We should be firm wherever we are. And if they come with force, we should reply them with force. I did this during Kargil war at a place known as Yangtze. It is in Arunachal Pradesh. We had 75 days standoff. They have been battled for the 62 war there. 75 days. And I had issued the orders to my troops in writing. If Chinese don't stop, you shoot them, you kill them. And then Chinese never came ahead. From that day onward, till yesterday, China has never came into that area. So China respect power. China respect firmness. This is my appeal. And here I'll stop and request the other panelists to take on. If there are some question answers or questions or doubts, we'll take it later on. So over to you, Kama, for the next phase.
Thank you, sir. Sir, so with you is also obviously Lieutenant General Patil Saab. So Patil Saab, I know Patil Saab is not keeping that well. So Patil Saab, even though I would like you to please recall what happened in 62 because you were there, even General Shekatkar just made a mention of that. If you could quickly recall that, give us your view on this particular subject, then we can move on to Ranare sir and Vinit ji. Sir. sir, your time.
Thank you, Karma. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat the mistakes again and again. And General Shekatkar has covered adequately. And I regret to say, we have not learned from the history. Regretfully, we must understand that in 1949, 1950, our first ambassador to China has misled the government of India about Tibet. It's a hard fact and nobody wants to admit it. When the Chinese walked into Tibet, the first Deputy Prime Minister, Vallabhbhai Patel, from his deathbed on the 7th of November 1950, wrote a long letter to the Prime Minister. Don't give up Tibet and don't succumb to Chinese pressures. Use all your means. Our ultimate threat to Indian security is coming from our neighbor China through Tibet. And his letter of 7th November fully explains. And in that he has, I would say, cast aspersion. He has admitted, he has a suspicion that the first ambassador of India in Peking is not giving the correct picture about Tibet to India. So much so that on 23rd November 1950, we told the United Nations that believe China, they will not harm Tibetan interest and they will absorb it peacefully. And we did not support the Tibetan case in the United Nations on 23rd November. We are paying for that even now. Chinese will never accept India as either a partner or as a peer or as a competitor. Their ambition is very clear. Shekatkar mentioned passingly that they keep harping on 2049, the year they complete 100 years of communist rule. And towards that end, last year, October 1st, 2019, Xi Jinping declared in 2030 they would like to take control of all the areas that Chinese have claimed for the last 2 centuries. They are working to a design. Don't be carried away by Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. It has gone a long time back. Since 1950, till now, Chinese have broken every agreement, every treaties, every understanding, every nation. For them, their own domination, their own control, and their own global design is paramount important. Friendship does not exist in the foreign policy of China. It is a hard fact I will share with you. Every foreign power, China perceives them, except their vassal states of Pakistan in the west and Korea in the east, except these vassal states and Cambodia in the south. All others are their adversaries, and so are we. They are working to a design. And in 62, they tested us, but in 67, they got a handful in Sikkim. And thereafter, after 75, for 45 years, India-China borders remained peace and tranquil. Not because Chinese wanted it, because this situation compelled them. And in 62, I would say the fault lies with us, that we lost it so badly. I was there in Taiwan, and you'll be shocked to know we were attacked most deceptively on 20th October. But in March 60 and 61, the Chinese defense minister kept on telling our defense minister that there will be no war between India and China. We are friends and appreciate it. And unfortunately, the defense minister of that time believed him more than he had You know, till 8th of September 1962, 8th of September 1962, we had orders not to open fire on Chinese because they are our friends. This was the psyche of the Indian troops. Suddenly on 8th September, in Thagla, Namkachu, our 9 Punjab patrol was ambushed and we lost 7 people killed. That day we got orders in writing from Ministry of Defence. Now we can open fire in self-defense. So the state of affairs. 62 is a better memory. I would like to touch more on that. I would like to come to the present. Chinese are working to design. Make no mistake about it. Whether you like it or not, peace between India and China should remain a dream. I must quote here, several leaders from 1980s have tried to settle the border dispute with China. Do you think they are interested in it? China will never settle the border dispute with us unless we agree to their terms. And what their terms are, you know. And Jaydev already will be able to throw more light on it because he has the best insight inside China. But we know it from him. That for the last 10 years, during UP1 and UP2, from 2004 to 2013, China kept on hinting at Indian government. Settle your dispute with Pakistan over Kashmir. You will be able to settle your border dispute with that. They have not said publicly, but through various means they have conveyed this to government of India. Thank God we did not fall to that trap. Because so far as Pakistan is concerned, I don't want to touch on it. There is no question of any settlement with Kashmir, Pakistan or Kashmir. And towards this end, I would like to share with you 2 things. A, Chinese, through various means, including the diplomats and the foreign secretary of that period, persuaded us to demilitarize Sikkim as a prelude to having permanent settlement with Pakistan over Kashmir. It was a big deceptive trap. We almost fell into it. The Prime Minister had ordered the army headquarters to prepare plans for a withdrawal from Sikkim. And the plans were ready. Thank God it was not implemented, thanks to the then National Security Advisor, M.K. Narayanan. In 2007, he put his foot down and he opposed it tooth and nail. As a result, we did not vacate Sikkim in 2007. I dread to imagine, had we done that mistake, it then would have lost Ladakh forever. Yet Shekatkar covered adequately. Chinese aim of controlling Indian Ocean from Gada demands successful completion of CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. And for that, they need control of Ladakh and POK. And then through Punjab, through Balochistan, to Gada. That cannot succeed so long as India controls Ladakh. And now that it has become a union territory and a total separate part away from J&K, the question of surrendering or giving any interest to our adversaries in Ladakh does not arise. Next, POK. If not today, we must have contingency plans. When the opportune moment comes, we have to liberate. If these two are blocked from the Chinese design, believe me, Chinese CPEC can never go through Pakistan. And as long as India and Pakistan are at loggerheads, the CPEC corridor, even it comes through, it will never be safe. And China wants that security. And for that purpose, they are willing to pressurize us to any level to have peace, and ultimately their eyes are set on Ladakh. Unfortunately, our so-called liberal democracy has enabled China to influence the system within our own country so deeply. You'll be shocked to know that for the last 40 years, they are influencing and almost indirectly controlling 4 political parties, including the oldest one. They have got say in 5 trade unions in our country, and they can disrupt the industrial production division. They have 4 universities and the young students with leftist ideologies singing their tune. Besides, there are so-called liberal democrats, academicians, leftist ideologues. They are all supporting the cause of China. Unfortunately. And every time our forces face anything, either against China or against Kashmir, Pakistan, you have seen even recently in Ladakh, number of intellectuals are not prepared to believe our armed forces, our Prime Minister. They are quoting what the Global Times, what the Chinese claim. They are quoting that. And unfortunately here, if we want to be a self-reliant, powerful nation, there needs to be a judicial reform in that. When I say I'm slightly digressing, our judiciary should not protect all these people today who are going against Indian national interests. Fundamental right. Under that, people get away with whatever they recommend, whatever they teach. And if these people keep teaching these things, the universities, trade unions, industrial circles, and political parties, what impact it will have on the younger generation? Do you want to be slaves with them, with this left ideology? You decide. That these people are allowed, and judiciary lets them off under guard. The freedom of press, the freedom of expression, and freedom of dissent must be allowed as per the Indian Constitution. But it does not mean that these people are allowed to act and operate and propagate against the interest of India's sovereignty and India's national security. In the last 15 days, for me at this age, I don't know whether I'll be there tomorrow or not, but it's most hurting, most humiliating to hear some leaders saying, we must compromise and we must have an understanding with China and with understanding with Pakistan. What compromise you want to do? Compromise Indian sovereignty? India's national interests? Ladies and gentlemen, time has called. Let us forget about, we can never be friends to China because Chinese will not accept it and we should not accept it. They have already encircled us, enveloped us, and entangled us in South Asia. We must respond by countermeasures. We can do the same to them in those 18 areas which Shekatkar quoted. We have the ability, capacity, and capability to prevent China from realizing their aim, initially in South Asia, then in Asia. I leave it there, and you have plenty more to hear on these matters from my colleague, Jaydev Ranade. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, General Sir. Very good insights. So now I will call up Sri Jaydev Ranade, sir, to basically, sir, now you, with your experience, with whatever has been said, how would you look at this? Because you've handled the China desk for quite some time. So in your experience, and also, what do you think it looks like the way forward? You know, what are we to do diplomatically, politically? I mean, we've seen our generals already talk about how we should be positioned militarily. But, you know, the diplomatic, the political, how do you think all of that thing should play out, sir? Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And we've just heard two, I think, very informative and incisive presentations from General Shekatkar and General Patil. I think their experience and their knowledge, first-hand knowledge, has added a lot to our general understanding of the area and of the problem. But to come to the subject at hand, as you said, the first point is to see how the situation develops along the LAC. Our Prime Minister went there today. The message that I draw from that is, of course, it was a rallying cry to the troops. It was also a message to China. He did not mention China by name for a specific reason, but it is a message to China that we will not tolerate any expansionism on your part. The reason he did not mention China by name was probably to still keep a small window open in case China wants to negotiate a way out. But his message was very clear. And I think the other factor, apart from going there, the manner in which he spoke kept emphasizing peace and development, but also our commitment to safeguard our borders. I think that is a very clear message. The fact that the Prime Minister went there is a clear demonstration to the Chinese particularly of India's political leadership backing the armed forces in whatever they do 100%. We've already seen some reactions from the Chinese on the social media where they've started saying, please don't raise the temperature, etc. But we'll wait for the proper reaction to come later in the day. But a lot depends on how this develops. We already had one unfortunate situation at the Galwan Valley where the Chinese, I would use the word, ambushed us and tried to eliminate or kill our soldiers. They got the short end of the stick. They were in fact beaten. They suffered a lot. So they haven't come out with any figures. And mind you, they're also very unusually, the Chinese have now started saying that perhaps we should also, not perhaps, we should also acknowledge our dead and give them the same honor and burials like the Indians have. And photographs of our dead soldiers in the coffins, draped with the national flag, were circulating on the Chinese media also. So this is a situation I think we now need to wait and see before we forecast further what happens on the border. But as I said, our Prime Minister going there, to me, indicates that the situation is serious. It's not just something that we see on TV cameras. Having said that, what are the options before us? Well, the first is, I hope, and here I draw on what General Patil says, I hope that the scales have dropped off from the eyes of many of us who still felt and continue to feel that we can continue with business as normal with the Chinese. We certainly cannot. And I think as far as we are concerned, we have to use everything in our toolkit to drive that message home. Apart from the military factor, let me just mention one point. Today, with COVID, the world has been hit very hard by the Chinese. General Shekatkar has already mentioned what has happened. 10 million people in the world are infected today with COVID. With what seriousness, what happens, we'll wait and see. But what has happened immediately are that the economies have been hit very badly and are likely to go into recession. The United States and Europe, which are the two wealthiest markets in the world today, and on whom China is dependent, are in no position to buy goods from the Chinese. So whereas China claims that it is trying to get its economy back to normal, it cannot do it unless it gets the orders, the export orders, the production orders from either the United States or Europe. And those orders are not coming. If there are no orders, there are no production, there are no wages. So China is in a problem. The only other market that is there in the world today, the real big market, is the Indian market. It's untapped yet because we have not yet connected with the outside world the way those countries have. So it's a, if I may say, a virgin market. The Chinese are eyeing it and coveting it. And here, I think many of us need to have a clear-eyed look at what's happening. The first step was the banning of the 59 apps. It may look like a very small step. I think, as they say in Hindi, akalmand ke liye ishara bahut hai. This is the first step. And the fact that the 59 apps have been hit, I think if you look closely, you'll find that most of these apps, the headquarters are either in the Virgin Islands or in the Cayman Islands, and they come from there. So where is the money come from? Whose money is it? These are questions that need further probing. But we've stopped it. My question is, why are we hesitating to also say that we will not allow Huawei into our telecommunication system? This is a step we must take. It is a step not because of the money factor, that of course is important, but because the moment we announce that we are not taking Huawei, immediately the rest of the world will sit up, because we are the one country which is today hedging, apart from the United States who's taken a stand. But if we take this decision, a lot of other countries will fall in line and Huawei will be hit very hard. China's technology rise will be hit very hard. With Huawei, of course, is ZTE. One step the government has already taken, which is asking our BSNL and the national telecommunications companies to start delinking and stop buying Chinese goods. So they've cancelled one Chinese tender for 4G, and I hope we progress on that line, but this is the next step that has to be done. The third is we must ensure reciprocity between our access to the Chinese market and Chinese access to us. And that is something that needs to be done. And here is a point that I had made earlier. Let me repeat it. In India, we seem to have a fascination for creating one body on top of another. We have a ministry. On top of the ministry, you now have a regulatory authority. On top of that, you have something else. I think General Shekatkar tried in a small way to try and get around some reforms in the army. But these are actually bureaucratic layers that are being superimposed. And what are they doing? When we have a vital sector like the pharma industry, which used to produce the APIs on its own, they shifted to China because it was cheaper. The regulator should have seen that this is one of the vital sectors of the Indian economy and APIs should continue to be produced here. So what if the medicine increases in price from 10 rupees to 11 rupees? The consumer will pay. But the manufacturer chose to drop his production cost to 8 rupees or something, increase his margin of profit by 2 rupees by getting APIs from China. Today, we are dependent 70% on APIs from China. Similarly, you find the same thing in the telecommunications industry. All of us use mobile phones. Even if you use a phone which is not Chinese, most of the telecommunications service providers, whether it is Airtel or Tata's or whoever, most of them, their backroom service operators are either Huawei or ZTE. So in any case, they can monitor your calls, they can isolate you, and they can bring your system down. So there are a lot of these sectors which we need to look at. We have a telecommunications authority. Why were they not why were they not trying to stop this? And mind you, I speak from personal knowledge. We tried to put a stop to it. It didn't succeed. We tried to introduce a mechanism whereby all investment and all entry into the Indian market from countries which we considered as not friendly would be subject to a regulatory mechanism. That was also not allowed to go through. It has now happened after China increased its investment in the HDFC Bank. But these are things, I don't have to spell out to you why it didn't happen. I think it was already alluded to by General Patil about the various lobbies that are operating here. So these are the factors, and I think as we go ahead, we must keep in mind that the massing of troops this time by China was last seen in 1962. Such a massing of troops has not happened since then. It was 1,100 kilometers. I understand now it stretches all the way to Arunachal Pradesh. In other words, the Chinese have put us under considerable pressure for the last 2 months and in anticipating what is going to happen and where. Not a single Chinese leader has spoken about the tensions on the LAC. Not their president, none of the 25 Politburo members, none of them, adding to the opacity of their intentions. So these are not friendly gestures, and we must remember that they're not friendly gestures and take steps accordingly. So even in future, we have to start imposing these costs on China and regulating their access to the Indian market to sectors which are not vital. Let me mention one more point. The bulk of our trade with China, I of course don't call it trade because it reminds me of what the British did here to like the Manchester kind of thing. They used to take our natural resources and supply us small manufactured goods. So like we have the Ganeshka Murti or the lampshade in our house, bought from China. The trader goes and buys it from China. What he has also done is he has shut down the little factories that he had, employing 4 to 10 people, which used to manufacture this in India. But he found it's cheaper to travel to China, pick up the goods and come. And in the process, he shut down his factory because his business is going, and 8 people were rendered unemployed or 4 people were rendered unemployed, as the case may be. I don't think most of us will object to paying a little more, a fraction more, for the murtis and all if they're manufactured here rather than import them from there. Now, this is something the government can very easily do without denying ourselves anything. The others may take slightly longer, but these are the steps that we have to look forward to in future. Of course, we have voices which claim that trade with China is a good thing. We should not become isolationist, and that is not what I'm advocating. What I'm advocating is you have free access to our market as long as you're a friendly nation. If you're not a friendly nation, then we will regulate access initially to the same extent that you do. Otherwise, we will become even harsher. I think the world that it is shaping up post-COVID is in our favor. As I mentioned, we are the largest market that is available. I just mentioned 2 more points since you spoke about the way ahead. With COVID, we are all going to have to change the way, not only that we live, but the way that we do business. I can't drop into your place or to General Patil's place for a drink now till this COVID problem is sorted out. I cannot drop into a cousin's house to meet him because of this COVID. So things are going to change. Factories will have to reconfigure how they do business. Now, those which are into robotics, they can continue their production. Those who are using humans, they have a problem. So these are the things that are going to start taking place. And I think personally, and Mr. Vineet Goenka is better positioned to speak on this, I don't think that we lack in brain power or in entrepreneurship in India. What is hampering this is, as I made a reference earlier, and let me be quite frank, is our bureaucracy. That is really stifling these energies that we have here. But in this context, let me mention, Jack Ma, as you know, he's the founder of Alibaba. He has already come out with the proposal. He says the world today should go towards the EWTP, World Trade Platform, like the World Trade Organization. He said we should have an EWTP where instead of a few 60,000 big companies that are operating in the world, we can have 60 million small and medium enterprises that function, which will promote and get into the business of trade, technology, tourism, etc. Now, Jack Ma has already thought of it. He says, let's have the secretariat of the headquarters in Hangzhou, which is where he is from and where Alibaba has its headquarters. So he's trying to steal a march already. I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong, but what I'm saying is, why can't we think ahead and start moving in the same direction? Because this is the way we will have to go forward. So I'm going to stop here because we said 10 minutes, but I think that we need to open our eyes. We need to move in this direction and we got to start thinking ahead. I think a reference was made by either General Shekatkar or General Patil to our having to pick up people if necessary from outside or wherever, but to start planning for the future. And I think that time has come where we have to do it. You cannot leave it only to one person who is sitting somewhere or maybe a politician to do it. There has to be a national effort. They have to pick up a few people, start telling them, plan ahead and let's see. And one other area I can mention to you in addition to what I mentioned is food. Food self-sufficiency is something we have to be careful about. And with COVID, there was a lot of concern in China whether they would be able to manage the grain self-sufficiency or not. And I think we are also going to be able to manage it. But these are the things we're going to think ahead and plan for with biowarfare coming in more and more into the realm of our thought. I'll stop there and I wait to hear Vinny. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ranade, sir. Mr. Jaydev Ranade has touched upon all the topics that currently lead into, probably he's touched upon entrepreneurship and the technology part. So, Vinitji, these 59 apps that have closed down, you are an entrepreneur, you are a tech from the tech industry, you've been there, done that. So I want you to come up with, how you would see all of this and what kind of opportunities you see, what apps have closed down. Today morning, I heard Geo Meet has come up, no? Geo Meet, we have now something, next time we will do the meeting in Geo Meet, not Zoom. Yeah. Zoom. So probably, so all of these new opportunities that are opening up, I want your view, your perspective on this.
Yeah, thank you, Karma. It is very difficult when you have three such a giant veterans sitting in front of you, Lieutenant General Patil, Lieutenant General Shekatkar, and Honorable Ranade sir. And I've been fortunate. I've been trained by all three of them, and I have authored the book along with them only. In fact, I had a very small role in that particular part. To answer what will happen after COVID in the tech space and what is our relationship with China and what will happen to this country if Chinese are not there, that perception which a dozen of people, maybe few dozen of people have in this country. Let me tell you, we will have to understand one by one, and I have 6 slides to talk about and small listing, and I will try to finish this in 12 minutes. What is the reason China is behaving like this? And I think very nicely, journals and Ranade sir has explained whether China has a strategic reason, that road or an access to warm waters port in Gwadar, or is it because China is facing heat with the US-China trade war? Is there 2 things which is leading them to react like this at our borders and what is happening in this thing? Or is it the firm leadership of India, which they have not seen all this decade? Is that leading? Now, these 3 things would be there, but there are 2 particular parts which maybe probably the veterans may not agree, but there are 2 specific reasons which I see as to be the reaction, the way China is raising. One, their own domestic challenge. They have grown big and they don't have anything to show to their people. So what they would do is then try to create artificial things. And one of the artificial thing is Hong Kong, one may be Taiwan, one may be at our borders. And also one particular part which nobody talks about is their inferiority complex. That inferiority complex makes them to act like a superiority complex. Actually, it is not a superiority complex. It's an inferiority complex. And let me now go back to what strategy they did. So before I talk about what is the future, let us understand what are the past they have done 2 decades back or 3 decades back. And we are being impacted by that. China had specifically 4 strategies in place at a time. One was the first strategy which they did in the space of technology was Great Wall. Like the Chinese ancestors built that Great Wall, they created a Great Wall which did not give access to the technology companies of the world inside the China. So 15% of the market was denied to the world. Absolutely. 1/6 of the human being. Every 6th human being is a Chinese, every 6th is an Indian. So what Chinese did is they did not give you access. So no world power, no Western, neither Indian nor any European ever had an access to that particular market which was there. Number 2 strategy they had is to penetrate. And rather than penetrate, let me use a word called as encroachment. They made sure they encroach in every other economy, especially in the technological space. And they used every trick of the trade, which was mentioned in the book. Third, what was the trick of the trade? There were 2 tricks of the trade which they did. And the third one came automatically. The first one was economical. They offered you everything at a cheaper rate than what you could do it at the production. Now, this was not natural. I had an opportunity to visit China multiple times. And what I understood is their entrepreneurs make the production, which may not be economical to you, but the states gives subsidy. So what they do is by adding to the state's cost, they would export this to you. And before the person exports to you, he would ask you, what is your landing cost in your country right now? See, they don't tell you the cost till they know what is your landing cost. The moment they know the landing cost, they would quote 90% to you with the confidence that they will get that discount from their state. So it was a state mechanism of pushing things, penetrating encroachment in the market. 2, what they did is coercion, buyout. So you would see that in India, especially, they bought out the brains. They knew these are the young talented people who would like to start their startups. And when Indian brains were hungry, they wanted venture capitalists, they wanted people to take risks behind them. And we were not able to create that kind of environment, maybe because of political reason, maybe because of bureaucracy, whatever. They provided that and they funded those tech firms, and you see that many Indian tech firms right now, the money finally lands up to China. So it is either directly invested or indirectly invested. That I leave to people to understand and see. Let me now go back. What is this? This all started with the business. They see this, everything has to be business, and the business are of two types. One, business is an opportunity which a person sees. So you are sitting here, there is somewhere, there is a cold, you have a selling business of blankets, you see that it's an opportunity and you go and sell the blanket. Number two is you create an opportunity. Now they believed in creating the opportunity and they created opportunity. And what were the endowment factors? The factors which were impacted that. One, human, the number of people. Two, skill. Now skills are never born. They have to be imparted in the people. What they did is, because they have a communist regime, they could force the people to acquire those skills, which we could not do in a democracy. So that is one differential we have to understand, which they have an advantage, where they force their people to acquire skill. They can part with the discounts and the subsidies, which we cannot do here. These are the two things which I think probably, which we will have to understand. And what has happened? It has, and if you understand, they understood what is the importance of data decades back. See, that's why they didn't give access to the market. We don't have any access. Neither Facebook runs there, nor Twitter runs there, nor WhatsApp runs there. Neither Indian firms can go there or European firms can. They have their own indigenous thing. But somehow we failed. We gave them access not only to apps, but important things under 5G. Just think about this. If there is a camera which is put, and this camera leads your data to their servers, somehow, some way, there may be a technology where they can access your things. They would know who exactly is passing through that camera. They have invested in AI. They have invested very heavily in IoT. They have invested in geospatial technologies where they understand. What I was in a conversation and Lieutenant General Bhatia gave an example that a drilling machine was functioning and it stopped functioning. When the manufacturer was contacted, he said, you guys have not paid the installment, so we have stopped it. The moment the installment was paid, the machine started. What does it mean? It simply means that the backend is set somewhere. Somebody could decide to do that. This is an example where not only that they control the machine for their own financial interest, but they may be driving geospatial data out of that. They would know that what is the hardness of the rock, where it has been used, which is the latitude, longitude, what are you doing? So tomorrow they can make strategic calls to that. Now, if you see which are the investment they have done under the project encroachment, and this is, I'm using the word encroachment. They have invested in companies which then come and become integrated here. And integrated in not only the strategic things, they have become integrated for logistics. So you see companies which provide you share a taxi or book a taxi through the app. That logistic company is there. They have come into integrator of food. So you dial a particular number and tell him that mera is restaurant wale se khana la ke dijiye. That app belongs to them. They have become integrator for stay. So when you want to have an economical stay and don't want to go to a 5-star hotel, you want to go to a bread and breakfast kind of establishment, you go through that integrator, which is again Chinese. So whether it is online purchase, whether it is food purchase, whether it is local travel, whether it is stay, all these integrators, if you go and see the backside, finally the money comes from one particular country called as China. Now, if you see the smart phone market, we are very happy that we have got this has been planned. I stay in Noida now, and 40 kilometers from my house, there are plants which are manufacturing a lot of mobile phones. But if you see 66% of these mobiles, 66% of the mobiles finally land up to here, and their profit margins and their controls are with Chinese. And what did it do? If you specifically narrow down from entire market to hardware to software to the app, you would see that they have gone into something called as TikTok. And let us give this example, because recently we have banned this TikTok. They knew that out of your 130 crore people, there is a large section of society who cannot speak English. India still is a country of native language. We have languages which change every 70 kilometers, 80 kilometers. If I come from Maharashtra, the language which I speak in Mumbai, General Patil who comes from Pune, we both have two different Marathis. Ranade Saab would have third Marathi together. Three Marathi, somebody coming, somebody speaks Malwani, somebody speaks Konkani. They understood the, finer parts of that. They understood that these people cannot use English. And what they did is, they gave you the solution in your own mother tongue, the slang, the dialect which you use, not the 52 languages which the country recognizes. And TikTok gave you that access. And this was where they corrupted your child, they corrupted your brains, and people migrated to this particular tool. And what happened? We gave them information which they wanted. Now they knew who are your family members. They knew what is the location you're sitting. They knew what is your IQ level. The videos which you upload, the conversation which you do, or the sites which you access, or the search which you run there, tells the person who is observing you what is your IQ level, what is your EQ level, where are you heading towards, whether you are a researcher or whether you are an end user. And this information which came to them, they could identify that tomorrow, because there is, Pandharpur's Yatra, there in Pandharpur, there's something called as Wari. They would supply that specific requirement of Wari, that is that tal, the small metallic band. They would instantly, 3 weeks or 4 weeks before that, you would see consignment landing there in Pandharpur at a cost which no Indian manufacturers can do it. Reason because this information traveled from these apps them that this many people are traveling for Wari. They could know. Before Indian government knew that how many people are walking for Wari, they knew it. Before the cowards in the North India move, they know how many people are going for coward, because these boys put these songs of bhajans of Shiva. And they know that so many people are there. And then instantly you come to know that maximum cowards are being assembled through Chinese things which are been coming through. Now this could be only done because they had your things. Now we will have to understand what will be the impact of COVID and the Chinese aggression which is happening right now. There are 3 types of supplies which journals have taught me and everybody has taught me. One, which is you cannot do away with that. You are dependent, and that is because you are in this part of the geography. For example, let me give an example, lithium. Now, if tomorrow you would like to go off the fossil fuel, we would like to go to electrical vehicle, we will need lithium batteries. And in India, unfortunately, we don't have lithium deposits. So we will have to import lithium from somewhere. You just can't say that I'll not buy it from X country or Y country. Now, these are compulsions because we are like this. 2, there are products and capital investments, or there are other machineries which you may not have right now, which you may not be able to replace tomorrow itself. We will have to wait. But yes, as a country, we decide we can do it. There may be large manufacturing machine, earth excavators. There may be equipments which we are dependent on foreign suppliers, including Chinese, which may not be producing right now for many reasons. But yes, if we decide, maybe in the next 5 years, 1 decade, or maybe in 3 decades. I'll give you one example which Vice Chancellor of a university, Gautam Buddha University, told me. Few years back when we signed WTO, we allowed refrigerators to come in. Now, I come from an humble background, and Journal and Ranade sir would agree. We used to have a fridge of Godrej, which the grandfather used to buy, and then we would tie wires around the handle because the handle would come out, but use it for a decade. And maybe when the grandson was going to get married, you get another fridge. So the fridge is to travel from grandfather to father to the son. What happened? We opened the floodgates. All of a sudden, all these brands which you hear, I don't want to mention the names, they came in. Those brands chose not to manufacture things here, but to assemble here. All of a sudden, we stopped manufacturing compressors. So no engineers who understood compressor were employed. So universities stopped teaching compressor technology, the heat exchange technology. Today, there is nowhere we have a subject called as heat exchange in the universities. Even now, if today you and I push the government and the government decides not to import fridge, we don't have engineers who will help us to design a refrigerator. As simple as refrigerator. We'll have to first make a course content, attract students, promise them some job, and after 5 years or 6 years, you will have the first engineer who will come out and tell us what we knew in 1976. So this was because we went on signing WTOs, we went on signing multiple multilateral agreements. Thank God now in the last 5 years, 6 years or 10 years, I would say specifically in the last 5 years, we showed our back and we were firm and we showed that we have firm. Whether it was WTO, whether it was, RCEP, where we said we will not sign RCEP because our data sovereignty has been questioned. And see, it is not about only the road. It is also about the data. They want the data to be known because they would like to know that in Dhulia, if there is a Gajanan oil mill, how much tilli does it buy? And can they provide oil at the cost of the tilli so that the Gajanan oil mill shuts down permanently? That's their design. How do they do it? They do it by big data, predictive analysis, contact tracing. They use blockchain technology. They use all available tools which you and I, Karma, have been talking about for the last 2 decades. So I think probably we'll have to understand the only way what we see tomorrow is A, break all the imports into ABC. C, which we can immediately stop. And I congratulate the current decision makers. They have stopped 59. We should not stop here. We should stop all their investments in fintech. I was talking to a journalist in the morning and I said, we have such a fantastic Beam app. Why are people using other fintech apps which we know have Chinese investments? The reason is because our app is not user friendly, and somebody chose to not make it user friendly. My blame is somebody decided not to make it user friendly, so that you are forced to migrate on a Chinese funded app. We'll have to stop this particular thing either by rules or by push or by creating environment. And I thank you for creating this kind of environment. Now you see the food technology also. We are 130 mouths to be fed 4 times in a day. We will have to come out with technologies which are not Chinese to preserve our food, whether it is cold freezing, dry freezing, hot freezing, or whether it is processed foods which can stay over the time. All this is an opportunity post China. And I thank God that COVID coupled with Chinese aggression came. Because had Chinese aggression come other time, or COVID would have come without this Chinese aggression, we would have thought only about one problem. Today we are talking about a strategic thing, put together everything. And probably this gives me business opportunity. I see here today that we can go back to our drawing rooms, we can go back to our universities, excite our kids to come out with innovative ideas. And probably, Karma, what you and I used to do in 1999, sitting there in Mumbai, that labs, it is a time we should go back to lab now and come out of this kind of boardroom discussion and start making new innovations, file new patents in our life. So this is what I felt. There are opportunities, not only in applications. See, I was leading the IT cell as a national co-convener. This is a huge waste when you use these applications. There is no core thing. ना पेट भरता है, ना कोई सुख मिलता है. उसमें एक डेटा डालते हैं, हमको बड़ा खुशी होती है, 4 लोग उसको लाइक कर देते हैं. 4 लोगों ने लाइक नहीं किया तो रात को सोने नहीं, मतलब सो नहीं सकते. As if you have lost something, pride. So that is, we will have to now think about applications which will change the behavior, which will change the impact. I am on the governing council of railway. I always tell my people in Chris, can we put a IoT device in the tank or the toilet of the coach which we run for passengers? Just think, if my coach manager, my TTE, my guard comes to know that coach number 4 mein pani khatam hone wala, and the next junction he refills the water, and not a single passenger of my train faces the situation where there is no water in the toilet. That happiness counts me more. And that opportunity has come today because now we can manufacture these IoTs in our own IITs, implement that through CRIS or through IRC rights in the railways. Can we come out with our own IoT devices, which we can give it to our agricultural workers, which can be put in the tractors and see what is the strength of the soil, so that we know which kind of manure should be used in that particular soil and what kind of seed should be used there. We have geospatial data which can be tapped. I think we have a lot of opportunities. Good. Currently this has happened. I would like to there is a saying, har kisi ka bhala ho. So I would say that thanks to this Chinese leadership, they created this mess there on our borders. We as an Indian can come together, and as General Shekatkar or General Patil or Anade said, we should come together, fight this up, and I see a lot of potential in our market. Thank you, Karma, for inviting me.
Thank you, Vinitji. So very, very insightful, and obviously, Vinitji, you are always encouraging and kind of like pushing all the youth forward to do things around tech. And basically, this is a good opportunity, like you're saying. If it came separately, it would not have created so much of an impact. But it has come together, and now it has probably forced us, to kind of build the things that we need to build and it's actually thanks to China also in a way, because they are the ones who actually initiated and educated the people to use all these 59 apps. Now that education time is no longer needed, because the people already know. If you just make a duplicate of that, which Geo did with GeoMeet, then you already have a ready market, right? So thank you, Vinitji. So I will go to question and answers. So the first question answer we have for is General Patil Sahab is one of the questions is come from Mr. Abhimanyu Dhakal, and he is asking, should we kind of like ask the government to release the Brooks-Anderson report? I don't know what that report is, but Brooks-Anderson report. And can you give your insight what the report speaks about? Are you aware of the Brooks-Anderson report, sir?
Henderson Brooks report has been flogged for too long in our political system. For the first 60 years, the then ruling party would never release that report, because it is in two parts. Part one is the major strategic errors made by the political leadership, while the terms of condition were told to General Henderson Brooks that it is purely military aspects and failure or success of command of the armed forces. They were told not to touch the political aspect. However, Henderson Brooks has justified in that, saying that the armed forces do not fight on their own. They always fight under the direction of the political leadership. So unless the political leaders' actions are analyzed, the truth of the part two will not come out. So I know what they have mentioned about the armed forces, but I really do not know what is the inner content of failure of the political leadership. 2-3 things I can, I wouldn't say imagine, but speculate. One, firstly, we were never prepared for the war. And our then defense minister, God bless his soul, is no more. He kept on assuring the nation and also the armed forces there will be no war. And his reasoning was the assurance by Marshal Cheney, the Chinese defense minister. As a result, the preparation for the war was never taken seriously. Point one. I can say two things which I am privy to, witness to. On the 10th of October 1962, when the military leadership conveyed to the political leadership in Delhi that we are not in a position to evict the Chinese out of Thagla Ridge. Therefore, they need time, pass through winter and prepare for it and think of it next summer, that is 63. We were assured, yes, we shall postpone the decision of evicting Chinese through Thagla. This was on the 10th of October night. But unfortunately, I have to comment, I can't help it. 16th of October, then Prime Minister, on Chennai airport, on his way to Colombo, in his, I don't know what prompted him, he told the media, I have told the Indian armed forces to throw the Chinese out of Thagla Ridge. Now, this statement cost us the war. Because, must remember, Chinese are our adversaries, but they are an extremely proud nation. They will not withstand insult by anyone. They have taught lesson to Americans in 51 in Korea. They have taught lessons to Russians. They have taught lesson to us. And they are now out to dominate the whole world. And that was a spark which told Mao or whosoever is Chinese, teach India a lesson. They taught us a lesson. So what actually the political failureship Henderson Brooks has mentioned, I do not know, and I do not wish to make a speculation.
Thank you, sir. Ranade sir, the other question is for you. I think you can basically please take this up. And the question is upon the impact of hydropower generation, sir, at the Tibetan Plateau, and what would it mean for places like like us around the border of that area? So what would that mean of these hydropower projects? Three Gorges Dam, etc., is there, but on the plateau there are, I guess, some hydropower generation, this thing that's happening. How would you look at that, sir? And how would you kind of your thoughts on that topic, sir?
It's an important area and an important topic, in fact, particularly. Tibet itself is important. When you talk of water, it assumes a higher salience. Tibet is called the water tower of the world because 9 of the major rivers in the world, and particularly in this region, they flow out of Tibet, and they're glacier fed, they're snow fed. So all of us, stretching from Indochina, from China, Indochina to South Asia are dependent on the waters and rivers that flow through them. As far as India is concerned, let me mention just the Indus, the Arun, the Arul, the Ganges and the Brahmaputra. All of them are fed or they originate in Tibet. So for us, it's very important. The Ganges, of course, does not originate there. That's a saving grace. But the Indus does and the Brahmaputra do. So that is a problem. How China behaves, what it does, we can see from the manner in which it deals with the Mekong River, which flows through and through Indochina, what used to be called Indochina, Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, all the countries downstream. And China refuses to talk to these countries about the utilization of the Mekong River or the fact that they are building dams. Chinese are building dams in the upper reaches of the river, thereby adding to the silting problem and the drying up of fish. Now, each one of these countries, their lifeblood is the Mekong. So this is the Chinese attitude. The specific question that you raised about the dams and the hydro power projects in Tibet, the river which they are focused on is the Brahmaputra, which is called the Yarlung Tsangpo in Tibet. So in the lower part of the Yarlung Tsangpo, that is around a place called Changmu, they have already built one major dam. There is another one coming up next to it. There are a total of 8 dams that they are building along that river before it comes to near the Great Bend. The Great Bend is the area where the Yarlung Tsangpo goes up and then turns south into India. Now, Chinese have done a study where they thought in terms, or they are thinking in terms of diverting the Brahmaputra in order to irrigate their dry and arid northern China, which is also incidentally a food bowl because the soil there is very fertile, but they lack water. So this is one plan that they have. And they are wondering whether to have one atomic type of detonation at the Great Bend and divert the river there, or build a series of dams and shift the river's flow northwards. So both of these will be detrimental to us because the Brahmaputra comes into India and then, of course, is a major artery for us in the east. Of course, Bangladesh will suffer, but this is one. The second, there was some person who said in India, a minister, who said that actually we should not be worried because the rainfall in the lower Brahmaputra area, that means after the Great Bend, is much more than the rainfall before the Great Bend. And therefore, we will continue to have an adequate supply of water. What he probably thought, or what he probably didn't realize, and I'm being charitable when I say he didn't realize, is that the amount of water doesn't matter. If you are going to reduce the flow of the water in the upper reaches by the series of dams, then the river itself can either change course before the Great Bend or it will silt up. So we in any case are not going to get the water. So these are issues and we have to engage with China on this and urge them, along with the other nations, lower riparian countries that are going to be hurt, that they have to follow a more sane and a more humane water management system, maybe in collaboration with us. China so far, of course, has refused to engage on this subject. But for all of us, this is very important, this thing of water. The other factor that drives China is they say that at the Great Bend, if they carry out that detonation, then the water is the stream is very powerful there because it's a very deep gorge through which it goes. And that the hydropower that they will be able to generate from there is enough for almost the entire portion of Southwest China. So these are the two imperatives that drive China. Both are very important imperatives. And I think given how conscious they are, like every other country, about food security, they will try and get water to the north. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, so next question is for Vinit ji. Viniji, you had mentioned the, the kind of the amalgamation of tech, and also like on the way forward, you had said that tech would be one of the things that, like especially with the AI, robotics, and reliance on all these sensors, etc. So from, I heard even Gadkari ji yesterday mentioning that I think in one of the interviews that he'd mentioned all across the roads that new infrastructure that is being developed to set up all these areas of specialization like Guangzhou and all those areas. You would have these areas of specialization where you would, because the roadside amenities, etc. are one, then you could have something like a manufacturing hubs all across the highway, and that will kind of maybe spruce up the economy a bit. So I want your thoughts on this and how, because you've already worked with the roads and shipping, etc. So in that grand scheme of things, how will it look for entrepreneurs, etc., that want to, be able to support this kind of movement?
Let me tell you the inputs first, and then what is the way forward or what is being thought. One of the input is that India spends almost around 14% of on the logistic cost. So our cost of manufacture is crippled, or is coupled with the cost of logistic, which is very, very high compared to the world this thing. And that's why I think probably the task force was made between me and Mohan Das Pai, that we can come out and give recommendations which will help us to reduce that. And we have tried to put certain things by using technology. Two, if you see in the COVID period, we were forced by a disruption, and this disruption led us to move away from going and mobility. So mobility was totally challenged in this COVID period. People have learned to work from home. People have learned to use technology. It is not only what I am using, but seniors who were not forced to use technology are now also using technology, or the kids also have migrated. We never thought our kids will not go to school but learn on some video conferencing tool, or maybe judiciary. With due respect to them, judiciary was very reluctant to migrate on ICT. They wanted the witness, the prosecutor, the evidences to be presented to them in front of them, and that was that power which was running things there. Now, for my surprise, this COVID gave me a very good thing, which we were trying for last 7, 8, 10 years. That happened in 7 weeks, and you see judges having courts running through remote positions, places, and so is that you see advocates coming up, and thank God they have taken it so positively. They not only function in the court hours. I have seen many courts functioning. I have an example where my friend in Mumbai got a call at almost around 9 o'clock in the night, where the registrar said ki judge sab available hai, aapko aana hai kya, samne wali party available hai. So that kind of proactiveness has come in courts, which I never thought judiciary would have, that kind of accommodation of technology. So this forced situation where mobility was hampered has given us a business opportunity. What you talked about, where the minister talked about provinces, we used to have this karma. If you go to Mumbai, where you and I have spent substantial time, there is a place called as SIPS, SEPEPZ, where we used to spend our evenings. Those buildings are called as SDF. What does it mean by SDF? Standard Design Factory. There were good old days where they used to have standard chips been made, components been made, various panels, maybe printouts. I don't know what kind of things were done because when I went there in 95, tab tak to pura economy khatam ho gaya. What went wrong is the policy makers signed WTO, multilateral agreements, and where we killed our own indigenous production of these hardwares and this kind of tools. Now with this access, let me give you an example. There is a place called as Washim in Maharashtra, or Digras, which is known for very heavy production of cotton. Now, if we can have farm to fabric or farm to fashion integrated side, where you produce the the production happens of the cotton, ginning happens, yarning happens, fabric is made, it is dyed, then it is cut, and a fashion is made, and a ready-made cloth is been prepared there, and it is been shipped. We would zero down the entire cost of logistic incurred, which is there otherwise today. So probably the minister was right, and that is an opportunity where we should come back after COVID, invest heavily in infrastructure. Infrastructure is permanent; it will remain there for 2 centuries, 3 centuries, and we can build up business economics around the banks of the roads. So earlier civilization is to come around these rivers. Now the civilization will come around the roads and the rail tracks.
Very well put, Viniji, very well put. So yes, and actually Gadkari ji also echoed the same thing. I mean, he basically echoed the what you said at your closing, that the civilization, in the early civilization, all the Indus Valley, Nile, Egypt, whatever, the Nile Valley civilization, all were on the rivers, but now we can propagate this entire civilization on roads. Excellently put. So, sir, so I will start with now Lieutenant General Patil Sahab. In end, I think we are also now closing. So, last few words, and also giving in context with how we can see this in terms of a way forward. And also, one of the questions was, if India had agreed to be part of the OBOR initiative, would China, would such a situation have come up today? So that was one of the questions there. So I want you to give your final conclusion, final summation, and final view, and also try to figure out if this question is kind of valid. It was one of the questions that had come up.
Thank you, Karma. Firstly, let us accept a hard fact of geographical reality. China and India are neighbors. Geographic, historic, and now the 21st century. Therefore, we have to be absolutely clear in our mind. There is no warmongering required for resolving our problems. But at the same time, I do not subscribe to the subservient Jihuzur policy we have followed to them for the last 60 years. We are a nation of 130 billion people, proud of our history, proud of our present, and we want it to proud of our future. From that angle, we must make it very clear to China. A, give up all your so-called claims and keep the border issue in the back burner for some time. Concentrate on our developing capacities in the economic field, military field, and the diplomatic field. And make it very clear to China, stop playing in our backyard in Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. We can pay you back in the same coin. We can play in their backyard of 18 countries, including Hong Kong, Sikkim, Mongolia, and Tibet. Never lose your initiatives in our discussion with China. And then, mark my word, Chinese are not interested in solving the border problem with us. Therefore, we should not be in a hurry, irrespective of who is the political party, who is the political head. You are not going to get Nobel Prize for solving India-China border problems. We must ensure your borders are well developed, infrastructure-wise, economic-wise, political and social needs, and properly protected. While we maintain the right to retaliate or take actions to protect our sovereignty, we should not be succumbed to their pressure to negotiate from a point of weakness. There is no need to be in a hurry to resolve the border problem. We can talk to them for next 1,000 years. And patience is what matters. It will pay with the Chinese. Chinese must be convinced, A, we are not in a hurry to resolve border problem. B, they can forget about any control over Ladakh. C, if they do not have proper friendly relationship with us, they can even forget about POK. And our own political system must come together with a one united resolution of all parties and 130 billion. We will, when the time comes, free Aksai Chin out of foreign control. And we will assert our right to protect our sovereignty, integrity, and the future of our generations. Let us not mortgage the future of our generations for the sake of few political understandings at the national and international level. And finally in this, let us not forget one thing, or I would say this way, let us focus on one thing. In the 21st century, if there is one power which can contain Chinese ambitions of global domination, and subjugating Asia, their heels. It is India. We have the capacity, we have the capability, and we have the thinking power. But only thing is, we must act in unison and not bring in politics, economics, and these social differences. A united India can stop China from dominating Asia. And if you can stop them from dominating Asia, they cannot dominate the rest of the world. We can live in peace. Finally, in this, as a soldier, I must tell you, if you want to avoid war, be prepared for it. Then we can stop it. And Chinese understand only the language of firmness, politeness, and at the same time with force. They will not allow any one of them to take us for granted. That's all.
Thank you, General Sir. I liked your concluding remarks, which is as an army man, that you said, to avoid war, you should be ready for war. I think that's a very astutely put position. I think with that, I would like to ask Mr. Jaydev Ranade to put his concluding remarks, and the concluding remarks also in terms of recently we have seen the UNSC, what happened at UNSC in terms of America and Germany. They basically came together and put a stop to that bill that they were actually bringing in. So with that, to contextualize the relationship and also how you would see us in the next next decade, how you would kind of envision the next decade, because now we are all in uncharted territory. China also, with the COVID, everything else, everybody's on uncharted territory. And I would just want you to give us your wisdom on how would you see this playing out over the next decade. And concluding remarks. Sir, you're unmute, sir.
Karma, you're absolutely correct. We are in uncharted territory. But there are a few things which are very clear, in fact, crystal clear. The first is the situation along the LAC, which China has created, which China has thrust upon us. I think for us, it is an extremely important development which we have to tackle frontally. We have to tackle it front and center because a lot rides on it. And let me mention a couple of things. One, we need to put a stop to Chinese expansionism, as our Prime Minister said. They have today claimed Galwan Valley, Ladakh, and Arunachal Pradesh. Tomorrow they will claim something more. They are already talking about the middle sector. So we do need to put a stop to this expansionism. And I think China has got overconfident. It has got more aggressive. And if we are able to block it, or if we decide to block it, then it is something that will do good for all the region and for everyone else. Second, our neighbors have been watching us. They have been tilting towards China, or in some cases going even more than tilt, and the Chinese have been taking advantage. One of the reasons for that is they feel that China is of course, cash-rich country, and it is a strong and powerful country. With our standing up to China already, I'm certain that in their capitals, there is already thinking going on as to what India is doing and how come India is so confident that it is standing up to China. And if and when a showdown happens, I'm saying if, because I certainly hope it doesn't, but if it does, then I'm sure we'll give such a good account of ourselves that the Chinese juggernaut will be put a stop to. Because for the Chinese, what they need is an outright victory. Otherwise, it's a defeat. And I am almost sure that they will not get an outright victory. Third, the other major powers in the world are looking at us today to see whether we have the courage, whether we have the inner confidence to stand up to China. Mind you, the United States has not been able to stand up to China in the South China Sea. They have not been able to go to the aid of the Philippines, which is a country which has a treaty with the United States. So they saw first at Doklam, now they're seeing it here. And I think our stature in the world will go up. And when I say world, I'm talking about the free world, and I'm not talking about China and its two satellites, North Korea and Pakistan. So our stature is going to rise. Our neighbors are also going to look at us differently. And finally, once we are able to show that we are confident, once we are able to show that we are a stable power, domestically and otherwise, we can expect more direct investment coming in, and we can expect greater confidence in our own efforts to design our internal economic structures in order to give a boost to our own industry and entrepreneurs. So I'm quite confident about the future, and I think we are going to head in a very positive direction. I think I've also answered your specific queries. Thank you, Karma.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, and so you brought up the question of even the industrialization, etc. So my final request would be to Mr. Vinitji to kind of put his summation forward, and also one of the questions that you had that had come to you, and I can read it out right now, is also in the process of while you're doing a summation, if you could address the S. Gurumurthyji's study on Indian industrial hubs and competing on quality and price. So that you can contextualize with our own impetus to increase our own industrial base, manufacturing, to bring up, to encourage manufacturing. A lot of MSMEs in the country, so we can encourage manufacturing, etc. So with that, this Gurumurthyji's study on Indian industrial hubs. So
yeah, well, I have not, Karma, I have not read as Gurumurthy's paper on that. But as I said, we are in a way towards that itself, where the roads lead to industry and industry leads to road. Let me tell you, my forefathers, the founder fathers of this country, both the journals, Ranade Saab, all of them have fought all these years. Their aim was freedom. Now, what is this aim? Aim is AIM, academic, industry, and military power. We should have academic power, which lets our people do innovation. Our universities should be capable. People should come here from not only from India, but from outside. Industrial power, where not only our people get job and we give solutions to our own people, but we export solutions to the people. And third part of the aim is military power, where we not only protect our own boundaries, but we can rent out our military powers to others. We can start selling our machines to people who would like to buy it from us. I think that aim should be there, and that aim is coming up right now. And I see that aim coming in the near future. So Karma, thank you for giving this opportunity.
So thank you everybody, and thank you Vinitji, thank you General Patil Sahab, thank you General Shekatkar sir, and thank you Jaidev sir. And I would also like to thank East Mojo, our live partner, Sikkim Chronicle, and Namrata, including Uma, who's helped us with organize a couple of things. Unfortunately, today, Mr. Rinjing Spalber couldn't be here. I'd also like to thank Center for Knowledge Sovereignty, which is our partner, and for everybody to bring this to this particular level of fruition. I think we've had a very, very fantastic conversation on where we are, what are the issues that are pertinent to us, basically with respect to the India-China relationship. And also we've kind of also tried to address what are the way forwards, what are the issues that are there. Some issues are much more bigger than we thought, and some look like gives us opportunities for our local entrepreneurs, for our local this thing to start building up the next phase in the country. And also a lot of inspirational talk from all our seniors, General Patil Sahab and General Shekatkar ji, and also Mr. Jaidev Ranade. I would like to thank you all panel members, including Mr. Rinjing Spalber, who couldn't be here. And with that, Jai Hind, and also with in our memory, we should keep our martyrs. We should never forget that, because that is why we are here also today, because it kind of has opened up this entire discussion like this. So we should always keep them in our memory. Jai Hind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.